You've been explaining yourself your whole life, and nobody asked you to stop. Think about that. You explained why you were upset. You explained why you needed space. You explained why you couldn't make it. You explained why you felt disrespected. And every single time, they nodded, half listened, and did what they wanted anyway. You kept talking, they kept ignoring, and you thought, maybe if I explain it better next time, they'll finally understand. They won't. Not because you're bad at explaining, but because you trained them, without knowing it, to see your words as cheap. Nietzsche saw this coming. Over 100 years ago, he called men like you the herd. Not because you're stupid, but because you've been conditioned to believe that explaining yourself is the same as having power. It's not. It's the opposite. Here's what nobody tells you when you're growing up. Society has a silent deal. The deal goes like this: explain yourself, justify yourself, make people comfortable, and in return, they'll accept you. You shook hands on that deal. You didn't know you did, but you did. Your parents taught it. Your teachers enforced it. Your friend group rewarded it. And slowly, one apology at a time, one explanation at a time, you handed your power over. You became what Nietzsche called a slave moral man. Now don't tune out on that word, slave. He didn't mean it the way you think. He meant a man who defines his entire worth through the approval of others, a man who can't make a move without first explaining why it's okay, a man who lives in constant fear of being misunderstood. That fear, that's the leash. And the people around you, they're not even holding it consciously, they just learn. If I question him, he explains. If I push, he justifies. If I go cold, he chases. You became predictable. And predictable men don't command respect. They get managed. Nietzsche had a name for the opposite type of man. He called him the Übermensch, the Overman. Not a superhero, not a dictator. A man who has stopped needing permission to exist the way he wants to exist. A man who has completely detached from the need for social validation. A man who, when questioned, goes silent. Not out of weakness, out of total, cold, deliberate power. That's what this video is about. What if I told you the silence you've been afraid of is actually your greatest weapon? What if the moment you stop explaining yourself, you stop being manageable? What if the men in your life who seem untouchable, the ones nobody messes with, the ones people talk about when they leave the room, what if their power isn't coming from what they say? What if it's coming from what they refuse to say? Here's what you're going to understand by the end of this video. You're going to see why explaining yourself signals low value. You're going to see how silence creates social gravity. You're going to see why the most dangerous men in any room are the ones who never justify their decisions. You're going to learn exactly how to weaponize restraint in your friendships, your relationships, and your social life. And you're going to see this through the eyes of a man who called out the entire moral system modern society is built on. Friedrich Nietzsche, not as a history lesson, as a mirror. Let's go. Here's something nobody taught you in school. Every time you explain yourself, you are making an unconscious social transaction. You are saying, your judgment of me matters more than my own. That's it. That's the whole thing. When a lion walks across the savannah, he doesn't stop to explain his direction to the other animals. He moves, and the animals around him, they adjust. But you've been stopping, turning around, explaining your direction, waiting for a nod of approval, then moving again. And every time you do that, you train everyone around you to believe that their approval is required before you can act. Nietzsche called this resentiment. It's when a man, deep down, feels powerless, so he starts performing goodness, performing reasonableness, performing patience, just to win the approval he doesn't feel he deserves. You're not being kind when you over-explain. You're managing your anxiety about being rejected. And people feel that. They can't name it, but they feel it. And it makes them respect you less. Next time someone questions your decision, don't explain. Just say, that's how I'm doing it, then stop talking, let the silence sit. Watch what happens. Watch how they adjust to you, instead of you adjusting to them. That discomfort you feel in the silence, that's the leash coming off. Stay in it. Think about currency. When a government prints too much money, inflation hits, each dollar buys less. Your words work the same way. The more you talk, the more you explain, the more you justify, the cheaper your words become. Men who speak rarely, and only when it counts, are treated like men who carry rare currency. When they speak, people lean in. But you've been printing money non-stop. Every argument, you had a full paragraph ready. Every conflict, you had a 4-point explanation. Every boundary, you had a backstory attached. And now people scroll through your words the way they scroll past ads. Nietzsche understood this. He wrote about the will to power. Not power as domination, but as the force of self-mastery. A man who masters himself masters his output, his words, his reactions, his expressions. He doesn't give his energy away freely. He makes people work to receive it. Start a 30-day experiment. In any group setting, say 30% less than you normally would. Give shorter answers. Drop information strategically, not completely. And watch how the dynamic shifts. Watch how people start leaning toward you instead of past you. The man who speaks less gets listened to more. Every single time. You've been afraid of silence your whole life. Be honest. The moment there's a pause in a conversation, you fill it. The moment someone goes cold, you reach out to warm things back up. The moment someone seems unhappy, you start talking, explaining, fixing. You treat silence like a problem. Nietzsche would look at you and say, "You have confused the absence of noise with the absence of power. Silence is not empty. Silence is pressure. Think about the moment before a storm. The air goes still, birds stop, everything gets quiet. That silence isn't peaceful. It's heavy, it carries weight, it carries threat. That's what the silent man creates in social spaces. He doesn't fill the room with words, he fills it with presence. And people, even when they can't explain why, feel that weight. They feel watched, evaluated, observed. They start wondering what he thinks. They start performing for him, instead of ignoring him. Nietzsche said the Übermensch doesn't seek approval. He generates it passively by simply being. When someone attacks you, questions you, or disrespects you, do not respond immediately. Count to 5 internally, stay completely still, make direct eye contact, then either respond in one sentence or say nothing and simply move on. You will feel the room shift. The silence doesn't signal confusion, it signals evaluation, and men who seem to constantly evaluate without reacting are treated as if they operate on a different level, because in social psychology terms, they do. There's a brutal irony at the center of this whole thing. The more you chase being understood, the more misunderstood you become. Think about the guys you know who constantly explain themselves. When they're hurt, they explain why. When they're frustrated, they explain why. When they pull back, they explain why. What do people do? They don't empathize more. They use the information. They learn your patterns. They learn your triggers. They learn exactly when you'll cave and exactly what to say to make you explain yourself again. You've given them a manual. Nietzsche wrote about the last man. The man so desperate for comfort and belonging that he gives up everything dangerous about himself just to be accepted. The last man is never respected. He's managed. He's the guy in the friend group that everyone knows they can push. He's the guy in the relationship who always comes back after going cold. He's the guy at work who always volunteers an excuse before anyone even questions him. He's legible, and legible men are not feared, they're leveraged. Stop volunteering emotional information. Someone asks why you seem off today. I'm good. Someone asks why you didn't come out. Had something going on. Someone tries to understand why you pulled back. Just needed space. Full stop. No backstory. No justification, no detail. The less information you give, the more mystery you carry. And mystery is magnetic. People are drawn to what they cannot fully read. They think about it. They work for it. Let them work. Here's where most men get it wrong. They think that pulling back from people, from conversations, from social spaces, from validation seeking is some kind of punishment or rejection. I'm cutting people off. I'm going ghost. I'm burning bridges. No, you're not cutting people off. You're selecting who gets access to you. There's a massive difference. A man who cuts people off is reactive. He's angry. He's hurt. He's making a statement. A man who selects is strategic. He's calm. He's not making a statement. He's making a decision. Nietzsche's will to power is not about dominating others. It's about being so committed to your own path, your own values, your own becoming that you naturally shed the relationships, habits, and environments that don't serve that direction. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. The wolf doesn't hate the sheep. The wolf just doesn't live among them. Take an honest inventory of your social life. Write down the 5 people you spend the most time with. For each one, ask yourself, does this person drain or expand me? Do I explain myself constantly around them? Do I feel weaker or stronger after being with them? You don't have to ghost everyone, but start giving less. Fewer texts, fewer explanations, fewer checks-ins, fewer check-ins. Redirect that energy inward. Watch how your mental clarity changes. Watch how they suddenly start reaching toward you instead of expecting you to reach toward them. Selection is power, and power is attractive. Let's talk about fear. Not violence, not aggression, social fear. The kind that makes someone think twice before playing games with you. The kind that makes people lower their voice when you enter a room. The kind that makes fake friends suddenly more careful. Where does that fear come from? Not from physical size, not from wealth, not from status. It comes from unpredictability, specifically the inability to predict how you'll respond. When someone knows you'll explain yourself, they know how to handle you. When someone knows you'll chase, they know they have leverage over you. When someone knows you'll apologize quickly, they know exactly how to reset you to 0. But when someone cannot predict your response, when you sometimes engage and sometimes don't, when you sometimes explain and sometimes just look at them, when you sometimes appear and sometimes disappear without warning, they lose their handle on you, and people who can't handle you are slightly afraid of you. Nietzsche called this the pathos of distance. The Overman doesn't live among the herd. He exists at a remove, not isolated, not cold-hearted, but separate in a way that can be felt. Introduce deliberate inconsistency into your social behavior. Not drama, not gains, just variability. Some days be warm and engaged, some days be brief and quiet, not as manipulation, but because your internal state should drive your external behavior, not the other way around. You shouldn't be performing consistency to keep people comfortable. The moment you stop performing and start simply being, people lose the script they had for you, and a man without a script is a man who lives rent-free in everyone's head. This is the one that changes everything. Most men operate with a hidden emotional scoreboard. They're always tracking. Did she respond well? Did he approve of what I said? Are they impressed? Do they like me? This scoreboard runs non-stop, and it controls everything. What you say, what you don't say, when you speak, when you shut up, when you show up, when you pull away. Every move is calculated, not based on what you want, but based on what they might think. Nietzsche destroyed this entire framework. He said the slave is the man who can only define himself through the master's gaze. In modern terms, the man who only knows his worth by how others receive him. The Overman has done the hardest psychological work a human can do. He has become genuinely indifferent to the outcome. Not fake indifference, the kind guys perform to look cool. Real indifference, built from deep self-knowledge, from knowing exactly who he is, whether or not anyone else approves. Start doing one thing every week that you would normally talk yourself out of because of how it might look. Take the solo trip, change your style, cut the social event, speak the unpopular opinion. Not to be edgy, to practice making decisions that are 100% generated from the inside, with zero input from the outside scoreboard. This is a muscle. You build it slow, but once it's built, you become genuinely, psychologically untouchable. And that is what people feel when they're around you. Not arrogance, not hostility, just a man who doesn't need this. That's the most dangerous energy a person can carry. Let me show you the full picture. You started this video as the man who explains, the man who justifies, the man who chases understanding and keeps getting overlooked anyway. That man wasn't weak. He was conditioned by a system that rewards compliance, that calls submission maturity, that calls over-explaining communication, that calls emotional transparency strength, while quietly laughing at the men who practice it. Nietzsche saw through that lie in the 1880s. He said the herd creates its own morality to keep the strong from rising. That morality calls your silence cold, your selectiveness arrogant, your detachment unhealthy. It will pathologize everything that makes you powerful, because power, in a man who stops seeking approval, terrifies the system. Here's what happens to the man who never stops explaining. He becomes easier and easier to manage. His words become cheaper. His presence becomes expected, and one day he wakes up surrounded by people who need him, but none who respect him. Don't be that man. The transformation is not easy. Shame, self-doubt, realization, betrayal by the people you trusted, anger, emotional detachment, cold, quiet, dangerous personal power. You're somewhere on that path right now. The question is, are you going to keep explaining where you are, or are you going to just keep moving? Drop one word in the comments, the word that describes where you are right now on that path. Asleep, waking, angry, cold, free, just one word. I'll read every one. If this video made you feel something you couldn't name before, if it gave language to something you've been living, subscribe, because we go deeper every week. No fluff, no motivation poster philosophy, just the cold, clear truth about how power actually works. And if you want the stuff we can't put in the public videos, the real tactical dark psychology, the patterns, the frameworks, the unfiltered breakdowns, hit the join button. The members don't explain themselves either. They just show up.